Hello and welcome back to the Midlands Outdoors channel today, back with another video. We're exploring the dry side of a Dudley No. 2 canal, heading all the way to the Lapal section, covering history and even more. I mean, it's really interesting to see a canal that was once there, going back over the history about what it was actually like. The canal stretched all the way through here, went all the way to Lapal Tunnel, then to Selly. The other Lapal Tunnel entrance was at California, then it went all the way to Selly by the Sainsbury's and joined the Birmingham and Worcester Canal. But let's really find it fascinating, this canal section, because there's lots of history to discover. So let's go and journey down and go and show you sections of the old disused Lapal Canal. So right, just journeying further down, the section what you can just see on the corner here, we'll pan around in a second to show you. The canal used to come all the way through here, but nature has completely taken back onto it. So it's really strange to see that, looking back at the history, there was a canal here. So let's go and show you. So here we are. Back in the old days, the canal used to run through this section here, all the way down, and it went under a bridge where the Man Away section is to lead all the way to the other side. I mean, by looking at it, you can just see all the nature is completely taken back onto it. I mean, many people wouldn't realise the canal really went through here. But there is a sign there saying Lapal Canal Trust, the Dudley No. 2 Canal Restoration Scheme. So later on in the video, I will tell you about the plans, what they're supposed to be doing for the canal to come all the way through with new plans of a new route. So comparing to the old Ordnance Survey maps, we can just see that there was a canal bridge going all the way over called Ford Road Bridge. Here's some photos of what it actually looked like. So the bridge, what you can just see at the moment in the photos, was actually situated right the way here. I mean, it's crazy to think that that was even here back in the old days, and all together now, it's just what you can see in front of you. I just really find it fascinating seeing canal features, what was there back in the old days. I mean, you can journey across old canals and find many things what really do date back to the past. But visioning of the canal here, you can just see the route where it possibly went through back in the old days, covering a bit of land on a grassy bit of area leading to the Man Away. So here we are. This is where the canal now went all the way down to the Manor Lane Bridge, going under the road, then stretching to the far back fields into the distance just at the back of the pub. It was close to Halesowen Abbey and looped all the way around where there was a pumping station back in the old days. I will tell you more about that when I get down to there. Then it went all the way through Lapal Tunnel to get to the California section. But you can just see the old photos of what this section really looked like back in the old days, with the Manor Lane Bridge and visions of the other side just into the photo. So there we go, photos of evidence of the canal stretching right away down. But this is actually what it looks like today, going all the way down to here. So you can just see the grassy area stretching all the way across. Where the houses are, just onto the corner, the canal run all the way through here, then went to the Manor Lane Bridge, going under the road, then over to the other side. So just where that pub used to be onto the corner there, the canal runs straight under this road, and where that bus stop is over the other side, if I zoom in, you can just see the canal went on the other side of there and went straight on, going that way. So where we're heading now is going to cross all the way over the road, and we're going to head to the other side onto the field and show you where the Lapal Canal from there extended all the way across to Lapal Tunnel. So here we are, we've got to the other side of the road. Where we want to journey is across the Monarch's Way path to loop all the way around to where the canal used to run. Well, here we are, there is an information board here. It says Ely and Lapal. This area around the Ely and Lapal is part of an historic landscape dominated by the ruins and earthworks of Halesowen Abbey and associated green lanes. The manor of Hales or Halos, mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, it was granted by William the Conqueror to Roger de Montgomery, Earl of Shrewsbury, and subsequently to David ap Owen in 1177. So there is lots of history behind Halesowen Abbey and the surrounding land. So I have come away from that road because it is really busy, and I'm not too sure if you can hear me on the mic what I've got at the moment. So here we are, just at the back of the road here where I was on the other side. You've got the pub. This is actually where I believe the canal run through back in the old days, going across there just onto that corner, then straight away down that way, then into a loop going on that corner. But let's walk all the way around and go and see if we can see more evidence. So I'm going to have to say this is a really beautiful walk. I just really love the Monarch's Way going all the way to the Derby Dale. There's lots of history. You've got the Halesowen Abbey. You've even got where the old train line used to go over the Derby Dale, just right away over the back. It's a lovely walk, and it's one of my favourites in the winter time, just for a short journey. So here we are, a little bit closer to Halesowen Abbey. If I just zoom in to show you, you can just see the ruins right over the back with the old barns just onto that corner. The land really does date back, and it has lots of history dating to the Domesday Book. But it's places like that to see how far Halesowen really did date back, going back in those years. You can imagine the little town itself was very smaller back in those days. The little cottages, little houses. And then once more, coming into the future generations, Halesowen is much expanding, taking back on land like this, which is a real shame. Always go back and look at the old photos, because I'll tell you what, you do learn some really cool stuff. I mean, there was coal mines all around this area, there was factories. Half of that stuff's gone now. The more we move into the future generation, we are losing a lot of our black country history. So right, apart from the Lapal canal, there was lots of history over here. The land what stretches right away at the back, where the canal line used to run, was more history. Back, I'm talking many years ago, to when the Halesowen Abbey was even there was a set of pools that stretched right the way across into the distance. A set of pools there with evidence today of dips going right away to the bottom. I just really find that interesting once more, because you can just see the landscape from the past, and you can picture what it would have looked like back from those days. So right, we're in search now of an old bit of the canal where the pumping station used to be situated. Photo on now for you of the old Ordnance Survey map showing pumping station, Birmingham Canal navigations. I believe coming further down by the old fish ponds, that used to be situated behind this tree line here, just right at the back over there. So not this fish pond here, I think it was on the next one, just behind here. So here we are, this is where I believe the canal pumping station was actually situated. Just in that tree line there, the canal come to a narrow section going all the way across just before we got to Lapal Tunnel. So I have got some evidence by an old photo comparing, you can just see trees into the distance. What I will do, I'll have a little bit of a walk down and just see what's onto this corner. But I believe it was possibly somewhere here. So it is making me wonder, was it in this section here what I'm pointing to? Because you can just see this little path leads down to a little wooded area just right away to the back. Let's go and see what's at the back of it. So right, this is actually where the canal pumping station was situated, right away above there, just onto the top field. The canal come to a narrow section, then went all the way across. By telling by the old photograph, you can just see what it really did look like back in those days once more. But this little wooded area here, part of it was back there in the old days. But it's nice to see where the canal would have run all the way through to go to the tunnel itself. But I will come back to the pumping station later in the video, because when it was actually being used, I think it had something to do with Lapal Tunnel. Water was flushed all the way through the tunnel with stopping gates on either side, and I think it made it easier for the boats to pass from one side to the other. So right, we're actually coming closer to where the Lapal tunnel come to a start on this section, then goes all the way forward. The canal used to be situated right beneath this field here, going all the way forward to the portal entrance. There is a little tree line, so here's actually an old photo of what the canal used to look like back in those days. So right, this is as best as I can show you. On the field right away there is a little dip coming right away down. If I just zoom in to show you, you can see it goes a little bit steep up. Just in the gap here where I'm pointing to, the Lapal tunnel entrance used to be right the way there. Comparing to a very old photo, there was a big tree, which is this one on the corner. I'm not too sure if you'll be able to see it, because it's getting round this angle to view it for you. But there is a tree there, and that's actually there in an old photo, indicating that the Lapal tunnel entrance was just right the way here. So it goes to show there evidence of going back into the old days of where the canal went all the way through. But the Lapal tunnel is really interesting. Just imagine how long it went all the way to California section, and the work they had to do. They had to leg to go all the way through the tunnel. And I believe that's why the pumping station was fitted there. I think there was like some sort of steam engine to help with the tunnel to flush water right away in. So there is a little bit of information behind it. So right, just before we get into how Lapal tunnel really did work, I want to tell you a bit more information behind it, which is really cool. So the Lapal tunnel is a disused 3,795 yard, 3,470 metre canal tunnel on the 5-mile dry section of the Dudley No. 2 canal in the West Midlands. It takes its name from the settlement of Lapal. The Lapal tunnel was actually constructed in 1798. The date it actually closed was in 1917, with the design engineer being William Underhill. So it goes to show the date 1917, you can just see when the canal tunnel really closed. I'm guessing it was to do with the mining. When all the miners' strikes happened, a lot of the mines closed in the area, causing the use of the canal line to be no more. That may be why it led to the closure of Lapal tunnel. There was even coal mine subsidences within that tunnel itself, so that also led the tunnel to close itself, so they didn't want to open it no more. So I don't understand why they didn't want to repair it. Maybe because it would have cost too much money back in those days, or even if they did repair it, it would still be unsafe because of those coal mines what was there back in the old days. So the tunnel did not have a towpath. Like I mentioned, it would have been legged back in the old days. Boats passable? No, so it was only a one-way traffic system going all the way to the other side. That may be the reason why there were stop gates on either side once more. So there is a bit of history here. It says the narrow brick line tunnel, built in 1798 by William Underhill, had no towpath. It had a very small bore at 7 feet 9 inches, barely wider than the boats which used it, with a headroom of only 6 feet. Boats originally took about 3 hours to complete the passage by legging or poling, so in 1841 a steam engine was built at Halesowen end, which drove a scoop wheel to load the tunnel with water. Stop gates could be opened at either end to assist boats along the tunnel in either direction. So that may be the reason why there was a pumping station indicating on the old Ordnance Survey maps, maybe using to pump water into the canal, where water was lost by scooping it into the tunnel to be flushed to the other end. So that may be the reason why there was a pumping station needed just onto the corner what I showed you earlier. So the tunnel suffered many collapses, and after a collapse in 1917 due to the mining subsidence, it was abandoned. It runs under Lapal, the M5 motorway near Junction 3 and Woodgate Valley Country Park. The canal between Halesowen and Selly is disused, and some sections have been filled in as the tunnel was considered uneconomic to repair. Like I mentioned, that's why they didn't want to repair it, because of all the collapses in there, it would have cost too much back in those days. A short unnavigable length remains in the grounds of Halesowen, once a garden belonging to the poet William Shenstone 1714 to 1763, and now a public park and golf course. To the north of Halesowen, the canal is in good repair and is used by boats accessing Horn Basin. The canal north of Halesowen includes the Gosty Hill Tunnel, which at 557 yards is much shorter than the Lapal Tunnel. It was built at the same time and has similar cross-section dimensions. So I will drop a link in the description of the passage when I went all the way through Gosty Hill Tunnel. It did look similar to the Lapal Tunnel, which is on this section here, where the roof goes a bit wider at the top, then it becomes narrower, and there was some interesting features into there. So if you've not seen that video, then definitely go and check it out. It does give you a gist of what that section of the canal line here was actually like. So I believe there was plans to try and restore the section of the Lapal Canal. I think in Selly they've actually restored the marina. You can actually go onto the website, the Lapal Canal Trust, where it tells you information of the plans of what they're doing. So I think they're trying to raise funds to restore sections of canal at a time. I believe there is a plan to go all the way through to Weedy Castle, bring the canal down to this section by bringing the viaduct over the motorway, then another viaduct down by the Manor Way to go through to the Halesowen section. So I don't think it will go any more than the Halesowen, so it will end there, and then I don't think it will go any further to Horn Basin. So over to an interesting topic now. Just before Lapal Tunnel really got filled in, there was a man called Edwin Fasham. He was one of the people with his brother to explore the tunnel by building a boat out of wood and putting inner tubes underneath it to go all the way through to the tunnel itself. So I believe there is a story from the Evening Mail 1993 in March edition of Old Brum magazine. In 1961, Edwin and Andrew Fasham built a boat from two halves of a packaging case and equipped two inner tubes as lifebelts, bicycle lamps, and borrowed a flash camera set out. They managed to get into the tunnel at Selly End and managed to get about 3/4 of a mile into the tunnel, where they were stopped by a large oak beam wedged across the tunnel. They tried to manhandle their boat over the beam but couldn't do so, so they fixed a metal plate to the beam to mark their visit and abandoned the attempt. So here's a photo of that, what you can see on the beam itself. They put a plaque on there. You can imagine under the ground now that is actually still possibly there. What does Lapal Tunnel really look like in the conditions now when it's been filled in? So if the story goes, they later tried again with a lighter borrowed canoe and were able to negotiate their way over the beam. Travelling a little further into the tunnel, they came to a point where the side of the tunnel had collapsed, but they were able to make their way around that fall. But a little further way up the tunnel was completely blocked by another collapse, so once again they fixed another plate to the wall and abandoned their journey, where they never made a return. So it's nice to see a story by two people who tried to go through the tunnel. I mean, if it was still open, I would probably do that myself, because it would be interesting to go through on a boat to see what it really did look like. So I can imagine many people would have done the same to see Lapal Tunnel if it was really still here and abandoned. But there we go, this is part of the Halesowen section that I wanted to show you on the Lapal Canal, of where it went through all the way back in the old days, tell you history, old photos, even stories of Edwin Fasham who went through the tunnel to explore it before it closed. It's things like this what I really do find fascinating, and you know, it makes your walk so interesting once more to discover the history of things what was there. So right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video and learnt some new things along the way. It's an absolutely fantastic walk, this one. If you've never been to the Monarch's Way section, to come down to the end where we are, where the Lapal Tunnel used to go all the way through, then definitely come down and check it out. You could go miles, you can even go to Dowry Dell, and that's another place what I've covered before, so I've got a video which there is a link in the description once more. But right, I'm going to make a way all the way now back to the Halesowen section and go and take some photos. But see you soon, the Midlands Outdoors out, where in the next video what I might be doing is going all the way to Selly to check out the sections up to there, because there's lots of things to do with the canal, old bridges, even the places where they've possibly restored part of the canal. But yeah, see you soon, the Midlands Outdoors out. Thank you.